So today we're going to be doing a deep dive into public perception of the circular economy.
Okay,
And so just to recap for anyone who may be new to the concept,
right?
the circular economy is basically a system that's designed to eliminate waste and keep
Yeah,
resources in use for as long as possible. Kind of like the opposite of our current linear economy,
yeah,
where we just take things, make things, and then throw them away.
right.
They're not sustainable at all.
Yeah,
So to really understand how people are thinking and talking about the circular economy, we're
okay,
going to be looking at data from three really interesting sources.
okay,
So first up, we have The
right.
Guardian that gives us that traditional news perspective.
Makes sense.
Then we're going to dive into Reddit, where people tend to have more in-depth discussions.
Get into the
Yeah,
nitty-gritty
exactly.
internet communities there.
Exactly. And then finally, we're going to look at Twitter to get that real-time snapshot of what people.
That quick pulse check. Cool.
Cool. So we use some pretty cool data science techniques on thousands of posts and articles.
Oh, wow.
Specifically, something called topic modeling to try and really uncover the hidden patterns in this data.
Interesting.
And let me tell you, it revealed some pretty fascinating insights.
I bet.
So to kick things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we found in the Guardian data?
Yeah, so our team used this topic modeling technique to analyze all these articles from The Guardian, right? And we were able to identify the main themes in their coverage of the circular economy. Yeah. And what's really interesting is that The Guardian's attention to this topic has actually increased quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, since around 2015.
So what kind of topics were they focusing on back then?
Well, we saw a lot of coverage on things like sustainable development and environmental protection technologies. Yeah, and interestingly enough, there's this noticeable spike in attention to renewable energy.
That makes sense.
Oh, specifically around 2017.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, the Paris Agreement was signed in 2016, and I feel like that really shifted the global conversation about climate change and renewable.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Energy just became like a much bigger focus.
Absolutely. It was a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
So another interesting trend we found was a significant increase in discussions around chemical pollution and its regulation peaking around 2019.
You know, I feel like I've definitely noticed that. Yeah. Like, there's just been so much more news lately about the hidden impacts of chemicals in our everyday products.
Yeah. Right. It's become a bigger concern.
Right. Yeah. And I guess The Guardian is reflecting that. Like that growing public awareness of, the less obvious downsides of our linear economy.
It seems so. Exactly. It's like the conversation is shifting from a general concern about the environment to a more nuanced understanding of how those concerns connect to the circular economy.
Yeah, right. And how it might offer solutions.
Okay, so The Guardian gives us that big picture view.
Yeah, it kind of sets the stage.
Yeah, but now let's get a little bit more granular, okay?
Okay.
And head over to Reddit, where things tend to get a little bit more unfiltered, shall we say.
All right. Yeah, a bit more raw and real. Yeah. Well, one of the most prominent themes on Reddit.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of conversations were we seeing bubbling up there?
Okay. Was plastic waste.
That makes sense. Yeah, plastic is everywhere. And it's hard to ignore.
It is.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a visual representation of how our current linear system is failing.
Even just walking down the street. Right. It's not just an abstract concept anymore.
Exactly. So it's no wonder it's sparking such passionate discussions.
For sure.
What else?
Well, what's really interesting is that we found a strong connection on Reddit between concerns about plastic waste.
And this desire for businesses to adopt circular economy models.
So it's not just about individuals making different choices.
Right.
Right. It's about, reimagining the whole system and demanding that businesses step up.
Exactly. Yeah, and take responsibility. Yeah. People are saying, hey, businesses need to be part of the solution here, not just the problem.
I love that. Okay, so did these conversations on Reddit get into, like, the specifics of how businesses
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they totally did.
could make that shift?
There were tons of discussions about incorporating circular economy principles into business operations.
Cool. Like, what kind of things?
Well, like designing products for durability and repairability. Okay? Creating closed loop supply chains, and even offering innovative services that kind of move away from ownership and towards access.
Okay, right. So it's like a collective brainstorming session happening on Reddit. People are not just pointing out the problems, they're actually trying to explore solutions and push for change,
So it's people.
right? Yeah, it's not just about consumer choices anymore. It's about systemic change.
Absolutely. And it really highlights this growing recognition that businesses have a huge role to play in driving this transition to a circular economy.
Okay, so we've explored The Guardian,
Bigger than that.
right? Where the focus is kind of on global trends and policy. Yeah. And Reddit, where those passionate communities are like diving into the nitty-gritty of potential solutions, digging deep. Now let's zoom in on Twitter and get that like real-time post check. So what's making waves in the Twitter sphere?
Well, we had access to Twitter data from the past year,
Okay.
and even with that shorter time frame, we
Okay.
uncovered some pretty compelling trends. Like what? Well, one thing that stood out was this very specific focus on consumer choices.
Interesting.
Topics like sustainable packaging and recycled materials were all over Twitter. Yeah. Suggesting that people are becoming much more conscious of the products they buy and, their environmental impact. Yeah.
It feels like we've reached this tipping point where awareness of issues like microplastics and the environmental cost of packaging has just gone mainstream.
Totally.
And now people are actually looking for ways to make better choices in their everyday lives.
Exactly. It's becoming more tangible for people.
Yeah.
Another interesting trend we saw on Twitter was this emergence of topics connecting charity with circular economy.
Oh wow.
It seems like even the philanthropic world is starting to recognize the importance of these principles.
I love that. Yeah. It's like this ripple effect, right? Where the circular economy is influencing not just businesses, yeah, but also how we think about giving back.
It's becoming this much broader movement.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think it speaks to the potential of the circular economy to really create a more sustainable and equitable future for everyone.
It's really inspiring to see.
It is. So we've got these different platforms offering these really unique perspectives on, public perception. The Guardian gives us that broad overview. Right. Reddit delves into the specifics. Yeah. And Twitter captures those like immediate reactions.
Right? Those like gut reactions.
Right. Exactly. Those personal experiences.
So we've established that people are paying attention,
Yeah, they're definitely tuned in.
but they're thinking about it in increasingly complex ways.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a surface level thing anymore.
So what are some of the specific issues that seem to be like grabbing their attention?
Well, based on our analysis of the Guardian data, there's this growing awareness of the need to transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources.
Makes sense?
And this was particularly evident in that surge of coverage around 2017.
Right. Probably influenced by the Paris Agreement and all those other global events.
Exactly. It was a real turning point.
It feels like renewable energy has gone from this like niche topic to a central theme in discussions about our future.
It really has. And what's interesting is that the conversation isn't just about replacing one energy source with another. It's also about rethinking how we use energy altogether,
Okay?
reducing our consumption, and making our systems more efficient.
It's like taking a more holistic approach to energy.
Exactly. It's not just swapping one thing for another.
So renewable energy is a big one. What else is grabbing public attention?
Another significant theme we observed both in The Guardian and on Reddit is this concern about chemical pollution and its impact on the environment and human health.
It's like we're starting to really grasp the interconnectedness of everything.
I think so.
Like, even seemingly small things like the chemicals in our everyday products can have. This ripple effect throughout the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. It's all connected. And this concern is mirrored in the rising interest in topics like sustainable packaging. Oh, yeah. And recycled materials, particularly on Twitter. It seems like people are becoming more aware of the environmental costs associated with their throwaway culture. Right. And they're looking for ways to minimize their impact.
So it's not just about, like, recycling our plastic bottles anymore. Right. It's about challenging the entire system that generates so much waste in the first place.
Exactly. We need to rethink the whole process. And speaking of rethinking things, one theme that was super prominent on Reddit was the interest in circular business models.
Yeah. So it's a shift from focusing solely on individual consumer choices to recognizing the need for systemic change.
Precisely. We saw a ton of discussions on Reddit about how businesses can actually integrate circular economy principles into their operations.
Yeah. I was like, what kind of things?
Well, things like designing products for durability and repairability,
Okay.
closing the loop on their supply chains, and offering innovative services that shift away from ownership and towards access.
That's so interesting.
It's like a whole new way of thinking about business.
It's like we're moving beyond just thinking about how to recycle things after we're done with them. And instead, we're thinking about how to design things from the beginning with circularity in mind.
Right. Exactly. It's about transitioning from that linear take-make-waste model to a circular model where resources are kept in use for as long as possible.